Hey everyone, this is Jordan from New St. Andrews College. I just want to invite you to join us for our upcoming Prospective Student Weekend, which is from April 13th to 16th. This is the same weekend as the Grace Agenda Conference, so if you're headed over to Moscow for that, you can register your visit also for the Prospective Student Weekend at nsa.edu. Two great events, graceagenda.com and your Prospective Student Weekend here at NSA. Hope to see you there and enjoy the podcast.
Hear the world calling, but son, don't you listen. They're only trying to drag you back into prison, that's right.
Welcome back to What Have You. I'm Rachel Jankovic.
And Becca Merkel.
And here we are on Monday afternoon.
Working on it.
Digging out of the swamps of the weekend.
It was a swampy weekend.
It was.
In multiple ways.
I'm always amazed by the amount of just garbage that our life apparently produces.
Yeah, we do.
A lot of garbage
we do
churning.
That also.
Yesterday,
Yes.
you will enjoy this tidbit from our lives.
Okay.
We had no food in the house. Sometimes we have no food in the house for altogether too long.
Yep.
But what keeps happening is that there's events and things happening.
Yes.
So we have been to the grocery store
92,000
every day.
times.
But you
Yep.
go and you buy stuff and then you have the people for dinner and then in the morning there's still no milk and you're like, oh right, we don't have bread.
Yeah.
Oh shoot, forgot about that. Why didn't I think of that? Well, I didn't think of it because we were quickly buying stuff for something else. So
Right.
we've had all of these things going on and all the pastries and the things and the stuff. And we did all that. So yesterday after church, we knew beyond a shadow of a doubt that there was nothing for lunch at home. Nada. Because we'd already been coasting on the fumes of the no food at home for some time. Offering each other cans of garbanzo beans in times of need. So we went to Pullman. It was like one of these really unplanned kind of like, we'll go out to lunch. Well, we stopped at the Fujiyama.
Okay.
It's no intention of going there. No, it was very funny that we ended up there. But it's is it Hibachi Grill?
Yeah.
Oh my word. It was like we took our kids to Disneyland.
Oh, really?
Oh, it was really funny. When the first chef at the other table came out, so there were no, I don't know what they call themselves, grill masters out and about when we've
Everyone.
okay, just close it and play.
Shadrach was having
It's not going
trouble.
well.
Yeah.
Technological difficulties. So anyways, the first chef came out to people at the other table. So, it's like the grill, the big flat top grill, and we're seated all around it like at a bar. It's the show where they cook all of your food right in front of you.
I didn't even know we had one of these.
Well, let me tell you, so funny because the guy that came out to do it at the other table, I don't think could speak very much English. So he filled the time with a lot of random noise making and it was funny. He was just saying, "Look at me, I'm a ninja!" But he was throwing the knives around, the knives and the spatulas and stuff. So he kept saying, wow. "I'm a ninja," and then he would say, "Happy birthday to you!" Ha 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 ha! It was very funny while he's throwing knives and then lighting up the fire, at the grill, whatever. But Moses just turns to me and he goes, "I like that guy." and all the kids, yeah, that's fine. He can have a mini bagel. It'll be fine. So, anyways, he was very funny. So then our guy came out and he was much more understandable. He was just telling jokes the whole time, but throwing the eggs into the top of his hat and one into his pocket, and then throwing the egg out of his hat and catching it on a spatula and tossing it up and down a bunch on the spatula and then cracking it on the side of the spatula.
Oh man.
And then, and oh my, it was it really was like taking the kids to Disneyland on an afternoon when there was nothing. It was just so perfect and hilarious and fun. And then the Onion Volcano was also a real thrill where he because they like put oil all over the grill and light it up, so there's a huge flame at one time, and there's all kinds of stuff going on.
Sounds like a party.
Yeah, when he dumped
party.
all the veggies on the grill, Moses just kept saying, oh, "That's my favorite. It's so tasty. It's so tasty. That's my favorite." And he did pilfer broccoli off of everyone else's plates. He was just
really
going
fun.
for it. But they did. The Onion Volcano was quite a thrill. It was a progressive stack of onion rings that he built.
Mm-hmm.
And then he put some oil in it and lit it on fire. So the little tower of onions was flaming. And then, I can't remember, I think he may have put pepper in the flame. So it was like all these little sparkler sparks coming out. And then later he put some kind of sauce in it, and it boiled over everywhere, and it was like this little steam engine of onion rings. It was very funny, but it ended up being one of those very fortuitously delightful things that you did.
That's
like
awesome.
we were like, that might have been a more expensive meal than we ever intended to take our children out for, but it was worth every moment of.
That's great.
It was really fun.
Really
Your kids would get a kick out of it.
I bet. It sounds like a party.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, I took my girls out and we bought fabric. It's that time again. Oh, I'm yawning. With they have this protocol dinner coming up, and I know we've talked about this before on the podcast, where they go out for a formal evening.
You've been listening to this podcast now. You know our life too
It's
well.
happened. And
you know
remember,
too much about
You
us.
might remember last year I was wildly sewing an evening dress the day of the event, which was not how I planned to do it. But I think we're basically there again.
I think Becca's queuing up for a repeat of that.
We're except worse, because this year
There's two?
I have to do 3 dresses, but the 2 that are formal.
Wait. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, this is the 3 dress
You had to do 2 last year?
Last year I did do
remember
2,
Bill.
but they were not at the same event, because they do freshmen and sophomores do one, juniors and seniors do a different one. Well, this year we have 2 daughters back to back who are juniors and seniors, so they're going to be at the same event. Both of them have to have floor length gowns. Then the next week
I'm going to be doing protocol next year.
Yeah,
How fun.
and then the next week I have to have the other dress. But last year the 2 events were further apart, I think, so it wasn't as much. Anyway, I have miles of fabric sitting in a lump at my house that has to be crafted into 2 evening gowns, and they're very, very, very different evening gowns from each other, and we don't have a pattern for either of them. We just have sketched out what we're gonna do about it, and so
this is when we say to Becca, we say, bless your heart.
Yeah,
You just have fun with that.
Yeah, that's where I'm feeling. And actually, they're going to be very, well, as I said, very different from each other. And, we'll see how this goes. I'll post pictures if and when we succeed. If we don't succeed, we'll just have to dig out your wedding dress and my wedding dress, and we can send them both.
Nothing awkward about that. Nothing that anyone would bat an eye at. Totally normal behaves.
Here's a long dress that you can wear. It'll be great. Oh my word. So we'll see, but that's my my current shindig is that.
So I have a new project.
What is it?
A new old project.
Okay.
An old new one.
Okay.
How best to phrase it. So I remember back in I feel like it had to have been maybe the early 90s, although it may have been later than that. Grandma Greensides saw that bedspread, a knit bedspread in the Victoria magazine.
Okay.
And sent off for the pattern, because that's the way the world worked then.
Okay.
That she spotted it and mailed in a reply card that she would like the pattern. And she got it, and it's just the most appalling amount of work. Like a lot.
Sure.
I don't even know what size bedspread this thing was that she did. But the beginning instructions, it's like these little ribbed squares, knit ribbed like rectangles, that are probably like 3 by, but they're ribbed so they shrink. So they're probably like 3 by 5-ish. Okay. And like the first step is to knit like 390 something of those. And they're knit with thread, like crochet thread held a couple strands together. Well, I remember, this is one of the only projects that she did that I remember her enthusiasm about it and starting it and wanting to show us when we'd see her, because it was a longer term project, how it was coming.
Yeah.
And most of the time she was always doing something, but most of the things she was doing didn't have that long of a thread of talking about it. Like usually she just cranked stuff off and did whatever. And she was always deep in the throes of something, though. And anyways, so not very long ago, my aunt, well, no, it's probably a couple of years ago now, sent down some stuff, but she sent down the whole bin of all of his grandma really had aged out of being able to do it, but I think she knit all the pieces and did not assemble them.
Okay.
And when I got in there to look at it, I was pretty sure that she did not assemble them because she tried a few of the blocks and didn't like how they were going together because the seam didn't look that good. Yeah. She was a pretty precision kind of a person. Yeah. So I think she would not have liked it if the seam was looking lame. Yeah. She would have resisted. Yeah. So I think she probably just sort of got unentranced with the project at that point. But there are huge coils of knit, the edging that's like all coiled up, and like then a cable border, and then all of these half squares and squares, and it is a little bit of a...
Are you doing it? You're putting it together?
It's a little bit of a mind-boggling unit when you open up that bin. Well, I've looked at it from time to time, and when I started, this is back in the days. Now everyone, you know the recipe tutorials? It's like, melt your butter. Here are 4 photos of me melting my butter. Where you're like, we didn't need this much help. I don't need a photo of you with a diagram unwrapping the butter sticks. No. Like, I'll be good with that. You know, like, sometimes a picture brings in much needed information. Sometimes not. This pattern was before that time. So the pattern just says things like, assemble. Doesn't like give you any leads on what they were hoping you would do. You know, like just assemble, period. Right. So every time I've looked at it, I've gotten bogged down in it because I'm like, I start to put these blocks together. So she has a couple 4 blocks, like 4 pieces sewn together. But whenever I would go to put them together, they were not matching up. Like instead of going opposite directions, they were going the same direction. Oh, okay. Because they're like interlocking, you know what I mean? Like, sure. Whatever. All of this is to say, I kept looking at it like, I don't know if like half of these are in backwards or something. Like, how does this not even fit together? But then, late last night, I had a breakthrough on this. Okay. On this and figured out how to put them together. And all of this is to say, it's a little tedious of me to get here, but I did... I figured out how to get it together, so I am now going to assemble it because it's not that actually difficult now that I know what the trouble was. And then, but I realized I'm going to have to get Mom to do some stuff, but Lena and Daphne will totally help me. And I was like, then it will be one bedspread with 4 generations that worked on it.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
I was like, see, that's surprising to have undertaken a that awesome. Could get through 4 generations.
That's pretty good. I feel like that ups the bar for levels of project.
Well, what's awesome is that it has a little block in the corner that you can put the date it was completed in, like a little knit date. I was like, I think we're going to have to figure out what that starting date was. That's awesome. Put her initials in it or something.
Did I tell you I have been working for way too stupid long on my entryway, but did I tell you that I got my wallpaper up on the walls that I designed?
You did tell me.
Oh, man. That's my only bit of triumphant
Not only did you tell me,
news.
You showed me a picture of it, and it was very cute.
I've done that then. No, I'm just saying, like, my progress on craft anything right now is slow and tedious, but that's my one thing I did do. I got my wallpaper up, and I'm pleased about that. Well, but I have to tile the floor still. And
I have complicated feelings about crafting. I've joked before that I could write a whole book about the spiritual lessons of crafting that no one would want to read. Because I always have too much to say about it. Yeah. But I do believe that there is a legitimate thing that is having your hands busy is like that.
And I think busy, not just scrolling.
Busy with making something, doing something is really a I don't want to say being busy with your hands equals godliness in some kind of a weird way, but that it is spiritually healthy to be pursuing making or doing things or working with your hands, or not being idle, like being making things. And one of the things, Grandma at Greensides was a real major part of my life on this, because she was prolific at things, but it was also just like having so much to give.
Well, just being productive. I do think idle hours are the sort of mark of our society. I mean, how much free time do we have to just
a lot
stare at our devices?
Yeah, and that's one of my favorite things. Is I've always thought it was funny, if you're like knitting in a waiting room, it's real likely that the person next to you will say something like, I don't have time for that.
Yeah, you've said that, but it's like,
but you're like, but it's the same time that you have. Like, I have this time, which you also have.
As a nation, we spend a lot of time that is free time. You know, just drifting around without any real clear direction on what we're trying to accomplish.
Right. And I was just telling some girls this about when I got really more into knitting was when I was pregnant with the twins. And I had knit before then, but it was in that pregnancy I had to sit down more often because I would be having contractions, or like it was more of that kind of a pregnancy. And so in that time I started keeping my knitting but where I would sit down beside it, because I realized that I would just get wound up. Like, if I sat down because I needed to take a rest, I would end up just sitting there going through the list of things I needed to do the whole time. Like, I would sit there and be like, oh, I need to wipe that table off, and then I should sweep that, and then I need to take the garbage out, and look how gross that table is, and I should pick this up, and I should do that. So it would just be like inventorying my work. Whereas if I sat down and grabbed my knitting, it was actually like a really nice little moment of vacation where you work on something that's like bright and cheerful, and then when you're done with that, you go back to your work instead of being like mentally consumed by what was right there. Which
I think the thing is, I think one of the ways you said this can be spiritually healthy. Obviously, it's not like one of the major virtues that you are knitting, but it's like just having an idea
I might be willing to go
of productivity. Just like somebody who's productive,
right? And specifically feminine.
But what is the old proverb about the devil and idle hands? What's that about?
Well, I want to say, do you mean the proverb, the book of the Bible, or the proverb about the idle hands, or the devil's playground, or something?
Yeah, something like that. And I think, like, how often when you just are sitting for whatever reason, and you just start scrolling around through the old social medias, and this is what we were talking about earlier. You can get sucked into
eating the banana runts. I don't care how many of you love banana runts. I stand by it that it's an unhealthy diet.
No, I just mean, like, let's say you're listening to, or that you're sitting there, and so you just start scrolling through stuff. How much of our feeds are an attempt to get us angry about something? Like,
always
whip up some fury over this.
Actually, I would change that. There are a whole bunch of different sins that are clearly being peddled on the internet.
Yes.
Anger is a big one. Another one is fear and anxiety.
Yes.
And then after that would be envy and covetousness.
Lust
would be, well, yeah, on my feed that's not usually suggested, but if you were going rogue on the internet, lust is a big one. It's not what they're trying to sell me.
But I think hopefully you're wise enough to get past the lust.
But like envy
episodes.
would be all of the ones that are, there's a lot of marketing that is based on envy. Like, I am so fit now, my eyelashes are so beautiful now, why aren't yours? That's
I love myself now.
I am so happy with who I am now. I'm so fabulous.
Yeah.
Like, won't you be sad about not being me? Because if you could only get what I have.
Yeah.
And anyways, but there's all that. And so you stop down to like really wander through the marketplace of potential sins and wasted time.
The other side of the envy one that cracks me up, though, is there's trying to just excite you to envy, Or the other one is promising that you'll be able to excite envy in
others.
And
which
so
would be the best world.
That's the one. That's when you've really achieved. Is when everyone else is envying you. That's when you know you've really won at life. But the thing is, so envy and
so sad.
But how much of this could be avoided by not just drifting in idle time? Because yeah, it's like what are you doing?
I find in my own life, if I waste time looking on the internet in some way, like you sit down because you're tired, but you just read articles that don't pertain to your life in that time.
But let's be honest though, there are the ones where it's sometimes someone has put together a glorious montage of treadmill fails, and when that happens,
bless their hearts.
The thing is that is time well spent.
Okay, but I have to say because this just came up because we had the Easter luncheon, and of course we all remembered John Dacre. Because and I said about this, it's what the internet was made for.
Yes,
like if there was no internet, we could not have our lives so enriched by My Name is John Dacre.
No, and if you've never seen it, guys, look it up right now. My name is John Dacre.
It's somebody recorded on VHS a local programming piece of a recital.
From when, the 80s maybe?
I don't
80s?
know. But it is a fail on 12 levels. And so many questions. There's so many questions that you have about it. Because the first person who opens it up is like the end of one performance when it starts.
Yeah.
And then the lady at the piano gives her little interlude about how they all go to First United Methodist Church.
Yeah.
And she talks about that a bit. And then John Dacre. And you really have to watch him live. But the question, I'm not sure which is paramount. How they got onto television. Why they were on television. Who made a mashup of those two songs.
Yeah, it's
Christ the Lord is risen today. And Amora. Because she says Amora.
Like when the moon hits your eye. Like a big pizza pie. That's the song we're speaking of.
Right after Christ the Lord is risen today, like a medley. And he doesn't know the words to either of them. He doesn't know what he's doing. And she says he's got to sing a song that's real popular nowadays. It's popular. And it's Christ the Lord is risen today, and then also Amora, okay? And then off they go. Off he goes. And then every element is precious because the accompanying piano begins, and then when he should begin singing, instead he says, "My name is John Dacre."
It's really good.
You've probably all seen it, but it's what the internet's for.
But have you ever thought to yourself, though, people are so classically ridiculous that they have these moments, these pure, wonderful moments that happen. And it's like, but that's been going on the whole world over, but with no
documentation.
But think of ancient Assyrian blooper reels. Like the thing is, they were
Spartans going into war, who tripped on his shoelaces as he was. It's so true. People have been doing this forever.
Were there talent shows in Babylon that were just really embarrassing? Who knows? Right. Who knows what was going on? But we have a little bit of a record.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying that
the point is there are plenty of things blessings. That are yes, but the real thing that I would notice is that I can be way more refreshed when I intentionally keep my mind with me in my home instead of wandering, so I can sit down and even read a book or read your Bible or knit or do something, but you're still present where you are, and you go right back into what you need to be doing.
And it's amazing how, we all know this, how much time you can blow scrolling around on stuff that you're not going to remember that in 10 minutes. You're not going to remember
You're not even interested in.
No, or worse than that, you get sucked into any manner of sin problems,
evil deeds
that you didn't need to, just because you're killing time.
If you can freak out about a situation that you obviously know nothing about, that is across the country from you, in a community you don't know, with only one witness presenting a side, possibly with fake photos of people.
Yeah.
I mean, like, you don't even know any of it.
No.
Like, we know a man who was in our church for a while who, I think he moved away, or he is here sometimes. He was a model. And we knew him to be a married dad of 4, but there was some random pictures of him. Do you know what I mean? Like, because he was, like, in some stock photos.
Yeah.
And there was, like, an article circulating the internet of what this widowed man does with his children that's so brilliant. With him at the top of it. And you just happen to have the weird insight that that's not that. Up. This is a totally fake story. Yeah. And what are they trying to get you? Like, nothing about it was true.
Right.
And I think, and it acted like it was like a news report in an interview. I mean, it was acting like, let me give you the data.
The thing is, like, I don't know. Have we talked about it before? We probably have. But when Paul tells us to stay out of old wives' tales, it seems a little insulting. Like, really?
Well, because he does specifically say because the women are gullible.
Well, kind of. I mean, I don't think he says it quite like that. But the thing is stay out of the old wives' tales. Just stay out. And we kind of picture somehow like medieval superstitions, and so we think we're immune from that. Like, we don't need to listen to Paul because he's talking here about people that believed in, like, leeches or something for sickness. You know, like, I don't know.
He was talking
about before they had science. But old wives' tales, I'm sorry, the internet is chock full,
replete with old wives' tales. But yes, and they're not
and often circulated by women who are, for whatever reason, enjoying getting whipped up about stuff. And that is another thing. Are you looking up the verse?
I am totally looking it up.
Okay, read it to us.
But I was laughing at the different it's a
or
really
some translations are trying to be more tactful than others.
Well, it's the ones where some people call it gullible, some call it morally weak and spiritually dwarfed women. That's something.
Oh,
silly and weak-natured.
He's talking about particular women, not all women are gullible.
No, because but he's actually talking about the people who worm their way into those situations and prey on the gullible.
Can I just say, how on point is that with the interwebs?
Yeah,
like, talk about worming their way right into your pocket, and then
where
you pull
you
it out
and dropping.
Okay, read.
So that I need to pull up more context, but it says, "For this sort are those who creep into households and make captives of gullible women, loaded down with sins, led away by various lusts."
Yeah.
Boy, has that ever happened.
On point.
And weirdly,
the same? That's not the same passage where he talks about women who go from house to house. Because that, too, is something that we can now do from the privacy of our own phones, is just spend all morning visiting.
Okay, well, this is really on point. This whole passage is incredibly on point with the internet.
Okay, go ahead.
In all ways. It says, for men will be lovers of themselves, lovers of money, boasters, proud, blasphemers, disobedient to parents, unthankful, unholy, unloving, unforgiving, slanderers, without self-control, brutal, despisers of good, traitors, headstrong, haughty, lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God, having a form of godliness but denying its power, and from such people turn away. For of this sort are those who creep into households and make captives of gullible women, loaded down with sins, led away by various lusts, always learning and never coming to the knowledge of truth.
Oh, gosh, is that on point?
Well, doggy dog. Like, I suppose that long string of...
Well, there's not old wives' tales anywhere in there.
No, I think
You found a different passage.
This is Timothy.
But that is also relevant because...
This is 2 Timothy 3. And it is so good because he's saying don't be deceived. You know what I mean? Like, don't be deceived. Don't be vulnerable to these people wheedling your way in and making captives of you.
And the thing is, like,
I love that. I love that, being gullible, not so they can get something from you, but so they can control you now.
Yeah, and I think that obviously there's nothing wrong with technology or the internet, and it's a huge tool and an asset, but like any tool, there's potential dangers with it as well. And I just think women, you
Well,
can say,
and
but it's so
we
efficient.
can-
I have everything on my
No,
phone.
but it's really fair to say that we've all seen women being led astray by that.
So much.
It's not like something that's never come to pass.
No, it's amazing. And I just think, obviously, you can use your social media wisely, and you can use your phone wisely, and all of
Well,
these
I
things.
hope you are using it
And it
wisely,
could-
because we all have them, probably.
Yeah, but it also, it can be a huge boost in trying to be productive at home. But it can also be this major distraction away from it, where you can spend your whole day technically in your home, but being one of those women who just goes house to house
And gossips the day away.
neglecting their duties.
Have I told you, I'm sure I have on here, how different things that we've done with our phones. Sometimes we put our phones, we called it we had a red box in the living room, we just called it the red box, and you'd put your phones in it at a certain point to just keep, like in the evening, to just keep us from even, to make it so that you would really notice that you were pulling your phone out, instead of pulling your phone out when you didn't need to pull your phone out. And, but then Luke and I we set restrictions on each other's phones. That's more, it sounds like it's not as weird as it might sound. It's actually just because he knows the passcode to mine, and I know it to his. So if he says, hey, take the internet off of my phone, I like it when I don't have the internet on my phone, because even though it sometimes makes things a little bit more complicated, most of the time makes you focus, because you just can't get as easily distracted. And I'm sure I've said this before, but to me it is because I can stand reading an article on my phone in front of the washer and dryer thinking that I'm doing the laundry. Yeah. If it's on my laptop, I know full well that I'm sitting on my computer. I don't lose track of what's happening. But on your phone, it's easy to not know where you are.
And of course, it's a huge resource and a huge tool, but I think my point was more about the idleness. Sitting idle, just vaguely scrolling around, is honestly, what is it? We should figure out what that proverb is. Idle hands are the devil's playground?
That's what I thought it was.
Anyways. But we were talking about the anger problem. The women getting angry over various causes that they just...
Idle's hands are the devil's workshop.
I was thinking it was that.
I think that there's a version of it that's the playground, but
Maybe.
I think it's the...
Maybe. But I do think it is the devil's workshop, because you can get yourself caught up in...
Well, no, that's a proverb. It's from Proverbs 16. Idle hands are the devil's workshop, idle lips are his mouthpiece.
Okay.
But yes, you get angry in some passing anger about something.
Yeah.
And oftentimes, the reason you get angry about it is because you actually have an anger problem with something closer to you that you are not addressing, and so you're venting. Right. You're basically like, well, let's let all the pressure out over here where no one could affiliate it so closely with.
Or no, people seem to just really genuinely get angry about things that they see online.
I know, but my point was, I think you have a problem with anger.
Well, yes.
That you are venting on something else, because it's, you know what I mean? Like, you're having marriage problems, so possibly. You're freaking out about someone over there.
Maybe. I mean, it could be that, or you just are an angry person. But I do think, for whatever reason, we do seem to think culturally that being angry about stuff online is almost a virtue.
Well, yeah, because we think that the dumb marches and everything... Yeah, every kind of anger, we will no longer be told to be quiet. We will do whatever. You know what I mean? Like the outrage anger is admired now.
And the thing about that is, God has words about that.
Does he?
We're not supposed to be angry people.
No.
And so if you're the kind of person that can get real mad about an article that you saw, the way we trick ourselves with this is we think it's righteous anger. We know that there is such a thing as righteous anger. And if we're angry at something that seems like injustice or it seems like sin, then we feel like that's fine, because this must be righteous anger.
Right. Like, this must be godliness.
But there's a kind of a major distinction between righteous and unrighteous anger. But even, I love that verse, is it in James?
Wrath of
man
man
does not produce the righteousness of God. Like,
you're not producing any righteousness with your wrath.
You're not going to produce anything good.
And that's why we're not supposed to go down with the sun. Let the sun go down on your wrath. We're not even even if you were right and righteous and everything, it will not keep well.
It's like manna.
It will keep badly.
It will be
tomorrow.
Full of worms.
It will be maggots.
There will be maggots in it.
What today you think is doing good in the world, tomorrow will be breeding flies.
Right.
That's how it is.
But the other thing is just, why go searching around for things to be mad about? Because a righteous anger, ideally, is like, there's something that can be done, know. But what is it that you're planning to do? You just got mad at 4 p.m. about something happening in South Carolina. What are you going to do now with that?
It's that whole, are you part of the problem or part of the solution? Probably, if you're not either of those things, you should bow out.
And you can care, you can have opinions, you can have thoughts about it, but the kind of person that gets emotionally wrapped up with it and angry. It just seems like that's one of the ways that idle time ends up having a real detrimental effect.
It's a real disservice. Like, well, what could you do in your time that might actually leave something positive?
Or if you fall into envy, then you spend your afternoon, you come out more discontented with your own home, or with your own children, or with your own wardrobe, or with your own body.
Like taking a quick trip to the discontent depot for and know yourself, know your own temptations, because people really are vulnerable in very different places.
And I think worry and fear is a big one for women. They can get all caught up in, medical articles, 9 things you're feeding your family that are killing them dead right now.
I have used this illustration before, but worry and fear a lot of the time is like a salesman, a really brash, pushy salesman at the door who just keeps pounding on the door. Mm-hmm. And that women often eventually crack the door to just take in the promotional materials and then spend a bunch of time looking over the color catalogs of all the stuff he might be selling you. Right. And then, instead of just saying, no, you're not welcome here. You know what I mean? Go away.
Yeah.
Goodbye. No. They end up in long negotiations.
Yeah.
With the worry or with the fear.
Yeah.
Now we're in a really entangling conversation. And I might have given it my credit card number. And it's now I'm getting, pretty soon we're going to be in a full-fledged, identity theft problem. But right now we're just in
I think, where are things that you see that? Medical ones are huge. Women can get really fearful.
Yeah, I think in the Christian, the Christian world, there's probably a lot of that kind of fear-mongering about not trusting God for your children, but having all of these it's the ricochet to self-help. There's self-help, you can do all this by yourself, you can do all this parenting if you just do all of these things. So the anxiety comes in and thinking, my kids will turn out only if I have sensory exercises, glitter in a bag full of jelly for them to play with or something. Just amazing things that you have to go through, jump all these hoops and do all of this, and then your kids will turn out. And then later the ricochet from that is usually some kind of a bitter resentment about, even though I did everything, they didn't turn out. Even though I cut every grape into quarters for their whole life. Everything.
And they took every supplement.
Oh my goodness. I have to tell you this. Yesterday we're driving, so we drive a Suburban, so we're up higher. This is connected. I got killed by this, and I almost put it on Facebook. And the reason I didn't is because I thought then everyone would start criticizing this person, and actually I just thought it was epically funny. I was what the heck did we just pass?
Okay.
We're up a little higher. We pull up at a stoplight, and I look at the car next to us, and in the back seat is a little baby in an infant seat.
Okay.
Might have been older, but it was not a toddler. It was a reclining bucket, like a bucket seat, with a full family-sized bag of Cheetos open. And nobody anybody else in the back seat. Like, no, it wasn't like the baby could have taken this from someone. And it was open, so I think the baby was eating the Cheetos. Like, and I had such a moment of like, oh my goodness, that is like the funniest thing I've ever seen. But I would not have thought that. The problem is, I would not have done that if it had been my child, because I would have been concerned about me driving and having them choking on a Cheeto or putting their whole head in the bag or something happening. But all the same, it was a good moment. Like, what?
That's pretty good.
Who hands their infant like a family snack bag of Cheetos? That one time I did desperately hand some child in the back a Go-Gurt, but they weren't, I don't think, in a reclining infant seat, but that was a regret that I had later when I was like,
sure.
Wow, that went everywhere more than I even anticipated.
Oh, indeed.
So anyways, the point being, like, living in so much fear or trying to make yourself feel better by being outraged at what other people are doing with their children. Like, maybe I'm just no fun at all, but at least my kids only wear hemp clothing. Like, maybe I am the worst in all the land, but at least I'm not her. You know, like, at least I'm not that. Or comparisons and envy and...
Yes, indeed. And I do think, circling back around to where we were at the beginning, I just mean, sure, if you decide to take up painting, and so you're sitting there at your desk painting a picture, it's true that your mind could wander into sinful places. It could. You could sit there painting, thinking about how much you hate your friend, or how much your sister wronged you, or you could be discontent while you're painting. It's not like having something to do with your hands makes you immune from that, but you're slightly in a better position
I
to
think
combat that.
That you're not actually. I think that the mental energy and the work that goes into trying to creatively do something is not being like, that work does not feed this certain thing. It's kind of like, it's not that it can't happen, but it's like, when certain things are left at room temperature, some are really unsafe for bacteria, kind of like, and some are actually okay. Like a cookie can sit around at room temp for a long, long time and nothing will go wrong with it. But like potato salad, in a minute.
This is like the 5th grade challenge where they each have to bring in something to have it mold. They have a mold contest.
And some things just don't mold so hot.
And one of my girls won the mold queen title, because I think on strawberries. I think it was strawberries. But it's just like, some things are such an active host for this stuff to grow on, and other things...
They provide the...
And it's like, sure, the cheese got a little bit of a crusty edge, but it didn't grow big puffy blue mold on it the way the strawberry did, or whatever. And so I just think having something to do,
be aware. But the thing is like that, it's environmental factors foster certain places, and like there are ways of living your life that is creating an environment for footholds for all kinds of things, and it is really not a big deal to get out of that. Like, you know what? If every time I do thus and such, I then struggle for a week with being content with my house, well, maybe you should think about not doing that first thing. And I find that the creative kind of work is really positive because it is good for you. It's mentally challenging. I like that. That was what I was going to say, is that when all my 4 oldest were all really little and it was just so many babies, there was no, there was not a lot of like, it was hard to talk on the phone because you had people that needed you the whole time. Like you should kind of be present and not like mentally elsewhere. And so I was hard to do that, and I was at home by myself with them and not really getting out very much. And so in that time, knitting for me was a really, I mean, therapeutic seems like almost too strong of a word, but it was, in the sense that I always tried to have 2 projects, one that was like kind of mindless, like I didn't need to pay attention to the pattern, and one that would actually be challenging. And I can remember like giving my kids a bath and thinking the whole time about like, how would you make that shape, or how would you do this, or how would you, and it was like brain teasers and puzzles at a time when most of my work was very
but I think too there's something, it's not like we're just saying find something to occupy yourself, like take up juggling, because I think there is something like specific about creativity in the home that has far greater significance than just, it kept me off the internet for the afternoon.
Oh, well, totally.
You know, like there's
one thing I would say about that is that while it was challenging me and it was fun for me and I love colors and I love fiber and I love that whole side of it, I was having to learn new things, but at the end I had a sweater for a child I love. Like that all of the love of the thing I was doing came right back into the home. So it was not me trying to escape. It was not me trying to not be doing what I was doing.
If you just decide that you want to...
That's true of cooking.
Yeah, I was going to say cooking. You want to get good at whatever, braising meats or something. So you decide to really try and throw yourself at that, and you're going to try different things, and you're going to experiment, and you're going to get new cookbooks, and you're going to do this. You know, there's so much more benefit to it than just... at least I wasn't on Pinterest all day.
Totally. It didn't just spare you something. You came away with something positive.
You're actually feeding something into your home.
Lanier Banks telling me when I was taking cooking classes from her that her husband bought her a cookbook. I think it was Julia Child, The Way to Cook, but it might have been something else. Might have been a silver spoon or silver palette or something. Anyway, she said he called it the gift that keeps on giving. and that is a thing that you want your work to be. And I will say, obviously I like knitting, and obviously I don't think everyone needs to knit. But I will say that it was something that gave me repeated joy, which is that you made it, you enjoyed making it, you enjoy seeing your baby in it every time they wear it, you enjoy putting it away to save for them for when they have kids. It's like it's a thing that you have invested yourself and your love into your home in a different way.
Or decorating your house, you know?
Yes, totally.
Just deciding to give everything a big freshen up. And so you're going to tackle that.
Bestow some love on it.
Yeah. Bestow. And I think that's kind of the thing we're talking about, is bestowing love in all of these little ways.
Right. Instead of putting your love in a whole bunch of never again findable internet cubbyholes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like where I put time and energy into stuff that I don't care about. I don't remember.
You're spending all your day looking at pictures of spaces that other women have put love into.
Yeah, like that. And if it's not turning into you doing something yourself, it might not be that productive.
Yeah.
Anyways, that's a whole lot of talk about my knitting. I said I could write a really boring book about this, and I may have just hosted a boring podcast about it, but nonetheless, I encourage all of you to think outside of the... One thing that is unfortunate is that, now, it's not really... Well, no, there's branches where it's cool to have done it yourself, but it's not generally considered awesome to bust out your handwork all the time.
No,
it's considered cool to have done it in private sometime in a more artistic way. Yeah. If you're all artsy schmartsy about it, but it's still not that cool to be domestically loving.
No.
It's not usually received with great laud and honor in the world. So you have to do it for reasons that you actually know why you care. Yeah. Like, I love my children and I want them to know I loved them. And I always tell my kids, it's kind of a joke that when I knit them something, where I would say, did you know what this says? Because there's all the little stitches, all the little V's. Do you see all these V's? And they're like, yeah. I said, do you know what this says? We always joke that every stitch says, I love you. So like a sweater says, I love you, I love you, I love you, like 10 million times.
Yeah. But I do think too that there's another element of it that, like, let's say you're cooking, but you don't have kids to cook for, you don't have a family to cook for. There's this side of it that is like, but you know what? You are learning about God's creation. You're getting better at something that He's equipped you to do. You're learning to enjoy His gifts
and
more. And
even being hospitable to yourself, because that's who God gave you. Like, set your table.
But if you
pretty,
went, if you went and saw Riot in the Dance, that one of the things that I really loved about it is, like, just look in your own backyard and just see what God is doing there, and be an audience. Like, be an actual audience to this art that He's put everywhere. And I think the same thing can happen in the kitchen when even if it's just you living alone. It's, you can appreciate the
What
world
God did
God
for
has
you.
given you, and you can actually take the time to really relish it. And speaking of Right in the Dance, there's an encore showing. So if you did not see it the first time, April 19th, I think it will be in theaters again. So you should make sure that you
totally should. That should be our tip.
catch that the second time.
Our tip is to go to the second Riot in the Dance.
Exactly.
That'll be fun.
And
all right, well,
I have to go sew some ball gowns.
thank you all for coming.
All right.
See you next
Bye.
time.
I'm a 2009 graduate of New St. Andrews College, and I'm a commercial property manager.
3 kids at Logos, 1 at home still, and I do flowers on the side out of our house. When you have these little people that you're responsible to shepherd, you realize I need to know what I'm talking about because they need to have a firm foundation and they need deep roots so that they don't get blown over and that they're ready to stand up for the truth.
I am a programmer. The language aspect of NSA is a fantastic preparation for any sort of programming.
I'm a real estate broker here in town. I think absolutely the perfect education for being in sales of really any kind.
I actually put it to a lot of great use when I was working in the political realm.
I am a pastor in Central Coast, California. Whatever vocation you take, it'll make you take that seriously because you're seeing it through the lens of the sovereignty and lordship of Christ.
To learn more, visit us online at nsa.edu.